and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 8 of Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So it really seems like Sayaka's going off the deep end, just going absolutely berserk on this witch, to the detriment of, well, it really seems like her physical health, her mental health, and her relationship with others. Wow, her body actually got pretty mangled by that witch, even though she does manage to just heal it. And she definitely doesn't seem like herself in the way she's acting. And I guess it's no better that she was acting like this in front of Homura, Kyoka, and worst of all, Madoka. So once again, Sayaka's stubbornness is really not good. She's, I guess, decided not to use a grief seed and just gave it to Kyoka as sort of an act of overconfidence, saying, "Ooh, I don't need this, but this is what you care about, so you can have it." But it really seems like that all this is just bluster on her part. She's really suffering. So I guess just to fit in with the mood of everything else, it's just a rainy, gross kind of day in whatever city this is. I feel bad for Madoka because she's sort of like the only rational person here, and she's sort of forced to take care of Sayaka in the aftermath. I mean, it's not like she's truly wounded or anything, but she certainly seems tired and kind of out of sorts. Now, I think Madoka raises a good point here in that just watching someone hurt themselves like that is a painful thing to watch. And the way Madoka's talking about how bad it is, it seems to me that she means not just bad for your physical health, but also for your mental health as well. Fighting with such reckless abandon. Things have to be truly bleak for something like that to become a feasible option. Of course, considering how Sayaka already views herself as dead, I guess fighting with no regard for oneself makes sense. So here we go. The cracks in Sayaka's idealism are really showing here. Sayaka's getting kind of snarky with Madoka. Like, why don't you try fighting for a change? QB said you'd be more powerful than me, so why don't you do something? I'm so miserable with my situation, why don't you ruin your own life to keep me company? Okay, so I was saying that to, strawman her, but then she said, you won't even give up your humanity for a friend. That really is an evil perspective. Man, I want to feel sympathetic for her, but she's really doing a good job at not being very sympathetic. I mean, if you're so intent on pushing away the only person who seems to care enough about you to do anything, man, she even regrets it almost instantly. One would think that whole speech about not wanting to regret things was really just a big fat lie, because she seems to be doing nothing but regrettable things. Alright. Well, that's an interesting statement. So there's this whole business about Walpurgisnacht, presumably, the mother of all witches. And Homura has the data here. Statistically, Walpurgisnacht will show up in this particular area. Although, I'd imagine there isn't, a bureau collecting the data and loading it into MATLAB and generating a spreadsheet. So, that, she says, statistics is interesting. So even more interesting than all of that, Kyubey says Sayaka is about to, self-destruct here, so, I'm just gonna put you guys on notice, teehee. I could only assume that Kyubey has some sort of evil ulterior motivation for this whole business, but what that is now is not yet clear. So interestingly, Kyubey is sort of echoing me in that he wants to know why Homura knows what she does. I mean, I guess he knows better than to press the issue, so he just sort of leaves when threatened. Probably the smart move, if I'm being honest. So, I guess, fortunately and unfortunately, Homura knows what's going to happen. Considering how Sayaka's soul gem's not in great condition, that means something real bad's gonna happen in short order. But whether or not anything can be done is unclear. It seems to me that this is something Sayaka's gonna have to do herself. And that little, display of, I don't want to say bravery, recklessness perhaps, of just tossing that soul gem at Kyoka. That might have been the thing that sealed her fate here. Man, so how much do you want to bet that Sayaka witnessed that whole little confession? I'd be willing to bet she did, and it's crushing her. Understandably so. So things are looking pretty bad indeed. Sayaka, I guess, hasn't come home, so she's just roaming around the city being miserable. Madoka, to her credit, is, trying to find her friend and help at least a little bit. Perhaps she's not prepared to throw away her humanity just to make her friend feel a little bit better so they can both be miserable. But at least she's doing a bit of legwork here, running around trying to find her friend. Of course, considering what she has now just witnessed, I don't think Sayaka really has, like, the capacity for friendship anymore. She's really just devolving. So once again, Homura shows up and I guess gives some good advice, but gives it in probably the worst way. You know, you don't have to deliver it in such a monotone way. You could at least inject a little bit of emotion into your voice and try and make it seem as though you have their best interest in heart in a genuine way. Seems that, like, the way Homura's acting, it's only working towards Sayaka's detriment because she's so impersonal about everything. So I guess, once again, something here that kind of irks me a little bit is that Sayaka's clinging to her ideals again, even though she's violated them and ignored them, and I don't know. It seems like she's just paying lip service. So Homer's letting a little bit more slip here in that Madoka's like the Cygnus of all of this here. You know, everything sort of revolves around her, and Homer's sort of acting selfishly. It's not that she cares about Sayaka, it's that she cares about Sayaka's effect on Madoka. You know, I'm wondering if Homer is almost acting mercifully, in a weird sort of way. But of course, before anything can be truly resolved, Kyoka decides she has to intervene. Man, you know, Sayaka's in a really bad way if she can barely limp away. You know, that was an interesting use of Homer's powers. It's not entirely clear what exactly she's doing, but it seems to have a couple kind of arcane rules in that there are certain circumstances where she can and can't use it. Man, these two guys talking on the train, in a weird kind of way, they're sort of, encapsulating the entire conflict here. You know, like, obviously they're not right, they're wrong about what they're saying, but it's right in the sense that there's a couple parallels here. I guess maybe it's like a larger theme of naivety and how that plays into things. You know, it probably doesn't help that Sayaka's having an absolutely miserable day while coming across these people. You know, it's really not helping the situation considering she's already having what is effectively a crisis of faith here. And that was an interesting little visual effect. You know, I think that's one of the strengths of this. Like, when they do use mixed media, it's pretty darn effective. Really lends an otherworldly, alien quality to things. Uh-oh. Seems like things might be escalating again. You know, it seems like Madoka is really tempting fate here by asking, what if? You know? That's a really dangerous kind of thing to do when you're on the verge of essentially signing over your soul. You know, it doesn't help here that Kyubey is really trying to fill her head with delusions of grandeur. You know, if you make the contract, you would be godlike in power. You know, that's a really heavy thing to put into the head of essentially a middle school kid. It's not like middle schoolers are known for being particularly stable people. Giving them essentially divine limitless powers, not really a good practice. So Kyubey even says it explicitly, like, you could become the god of this world. So I'm not sure if Kyubey's lying here or what. You know, 'cause he says Madoka could render Sayaka normal again. Well, that was awfully sudden, wasn't it? I guess it makes sense. This is sort of Homer's modus operandi. Just sort of showing up, doing things suddenly. But as I was saying, you know, it's not entirely clear if Kyubey was actually telling the truth or if he was actually lying. Because it seems to me that up until this point, at least, he's only ever lied by omission rather than outright telling lies. So perhaps he was sort of telling the truth, if not the entire truth. So even more interestingly, Homura seems to have finally, regained some degree of humanity in that she's displaying emotion. Oh man, I'm doing some big thinking right now. Madoka's having deja vu, Homura's showing emotion. So this is a real interesting inversion of how things normally go, in that Madoka knows what needs to be done and is prepared to do it, whereas Homura is left essentially just sort of like sitting and crying about it. Man, that is a really demonic shot of Kyubey. Oh, that was something. He just ate his own corpse. How incredibly disgusting. Alright, so all the puzzle pieces are falling into place here. Homura can manipulate time. Presumably freeze it, presumably rewind it, presumably jump through different timelines. So that's why all the deja vu makes sense. That's why Homura is sticking her nose in at every reasonable instance. It seems like she really owes Madoka a debt of gratitude for some reason. Although precisely what still remains unclear, but whatever it was, it's enough for her to travel through time a lot. I really hate to say it, but seeing Kyoka and Sayaka talk now, it really does seem like the nihilistic approach was probably the better one. So I guess, well, this is it for Sayaka. Her soul gems become basically entirely corrupted, so... well, that's it. She probably can't be saved anymore. I almost have to wonder, surely Kyoka could have done something at this point. If she had had, a soul gem on hand, or a grief seed rather, she could have just, at least tried to purify things. Render the situation not as apocalyptic as it now currently is. Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag, Sayaka's soul gem exploded and became a grief seed, so... it's another little piece of the puzzle that's now fallen into place. Once again, Kyubey hides the truth. What a monster. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.